basic laws need to be taught in schools. You have the right to not incriminate yourself. Everybody needs a fair shot. The purpose of the criminal defense attorney is to ensure that the government is playing by the rules. If you're a defendant and you're in the courtroom, I wouldn't say anything because that's what your attorney is there for. So I am attorney Lauren Noriega, and I'm a California state and federal criminal defense attorney. Well, it's similar to, like, there are different types of doctors, right? So there's a heart doctor, there's a foot doctor, criminal attorneys, criminal defense attorneys defend those who are charged with criminal offenses. Because everybody needs a fair shot. So whether you're guilty or not, the purpose of the criminal defense attorney is to ensure that the government is playing by the rules and that none of your constitutional rights are being violated in the process of the prosecution. The right to remain silent is part of the U.S. Constitution that says that you have the right to not incriminate yourself. So the right to remain silent goes kind of hand in hand with the right to counsel. So not only do you have the right against self-incrimination, but you also have the right to have counsel present while you are going through custodial interrogation, which could potentially elicit incriminating responses. I think the difference is passion. So I think that there are tons of good lawyers all over the place who procedurally know what they're doing and know how to be a good lawyer, and they know what steps to take if this pops up or if this, in this situation, you do this. But I think to be a great lawyer, you have to have passion and you have to believe that you can actually make a difference in the justice system. Because it's very easy to get discouraged. It's very easy to say, oh, well, you know, it's just me. I'm one lawyer. What am I going to do? But if everybody thinks that way, then nothing's ever going to get changed. No. I'm not sure why people think that. Just like any other profession, there are different people have different viewpoints, and there are some judges that are strict and there are some judges that aren't strict. It just depends on the situation. Why defend a murderer? Because not all people that are charged with murder or any crime are absolutely guilty. There are people that are charged with murder that are innocent. I'm not sure how judges dress. I mean, I don't think judges dress strange. They wear a black robe, but I don't think that they dress strange. I don't know. No, because there are a lot of things other than defending criminals that lawyers do. So there are lots of different types of lawyers. So it doesn't really have anything to do with criminal or because, you know, people are charged with breaking the law all the time when they don't. So there are a lot of gray areas, and that's the purpose of attorneys. No. So with criminal defense, you are typically paid an upfront retainer, all upfront. You get all the money upfront. And the purpose of that payment is for my time and effort. So you don't get services for free based only upon the outcome. Whereas with personal injury attorneys, at least here in the States, sometimes they do what's called contingency fees. And that means that the attorney only gets paid if they are successful, if they win. So it's not like that with criminal. With criminal, you are paying for the time and efforts of the attorney, not the outcome. I am. First I would start with definitely finding an attorney that focuses on the field for which you are looking for an attorney. So if you're looking for a trust and wills attorney, you want to find somebody who specializes in that area. If you're looking for criminal defense, you want to find somebody that specializes in that area, similar to the doctor metaphor that I gave. You wouldn't go to a heart doctor for your feet and vice versa. So I would start there. You want to make sure that the attorney specializes in that particular area. And then I would read reviews, maybe talk to people that have hired that attorney and see what they have to say about that attorney. And then, of course, meet with the attorney. And, if you get any type of bad vibe or gut feeling about that person, or you don't feel like that you can trust them, that's a huge part of it too. You have to be able to trust whoever you are hiring to handle your criminal matter, especially. I would never give any guarantees that that's borderline malpractice, because I'm not a psychic. I don't, even if I have great confidence in a case, I can never guarantee an outcome. Nobody can. I think it depends on who you ask. For me, of course, it's a business, and I'm doing this because I do feel that the government takes advantage of people in poor socioeconomic conditions, and minorities are taken advantage of. And so it's absolutely a business, but it's also, I like to think that I'm making a difference in my community. I would say honesty, aggressiveness, and reliability. To be able to rely on them. They have to be. And that's one of the first things that I advise the client when we meet. I say, look, you've got to tell me the entire truth, because if you don't tell me the truth will end up coming out in court, and it's going to be a surprise to me. I'm not going to have the time and opportunity to prepare for that. So I always tell the client at the very beginning, tell me everything right now, because if I find out from the DA or from the investigating officer, then it's going to really put the client at a disadvantage. I would say that you're going to run into a lot of older attorneys that are jaded and really don't have the passion or the drive anymore. And it's very easy to kind of pick up on that and almost feel that way too, because, let's face it, criminal defense attorneys lose a lot. It's an uphill battle when you're doing criminal defense. And so it's very easy to get jaded, and it's very easy to get frustrated and start expecting losses. But I think it's so important to maintain that drive and positivity that you have when you first enter the field. So I would say just preserve that no matter how far into it you get. Just never lose the hunger or the drive or the positivity that you can actually make a difference and make a change in the justice system. Probably the Nipsey Hussle case. I represented the gentleman who got shot alongside Nipsey, and the state tried to violate his parole by saying that he was around a known gang member while he's on parole, and he wasn't supposed to be around gang members. And so he was looking at potentially being locked back up for life again. And, I came on and did that case pro bono, and we got it dismissed. And so probably just the most memorable because it got so much attention in the media, but also because I think it brought a lot of awareness to some of the issues that we have in our justice system. Not necessarily, just perfect example. I mean, I did the Nipsey Hussle case, I represented Carrie Lathan pro bono. And everybody knows I did that pro bono. And so that was free, but I still got it dismissed. So I don't think that the price that you pay completely determines. Obviously, there is some truth to you get what you pay for. And if you hire, somebody who's charging you a fourth of what everybody else is quoting you, you need to be cognizant that maybe that attorney doesn't plan to put in as much effort as the others who are charging more. If you're a defendant and you're in the courtroom, I wouldn't say anything because that's what your attorney is there for. None of my wins have come easy. None of them have come easy. There have been a couple of cases where I planned on having to fight harder for getting what I want, but I wouldn't classify any of them as coming easy. It's just maybe more like, oh, that was easier than I thought it might have been. I guess it would depend on whether the alien is defined as a human being, because in our penal code, at least in the state of California, in order to be charged and prosecuted for murder, you had to have killed a human being. So if an alien is not defined as a human being, then no. The scariest thing, obviously there are some defendants who are not all there mentally. And so I've seen defendants who are very much not in touch with reality and screaming things that don't make sense and trying to bang their heads against the tables and the walls. And I guess that's probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. I have. And that was mainly because there was a breakdown in the client-attorney relationship. We had gotten into several arguments. The client had said some things that I felt that I could no longer represent him or her in a way that they needed and that they had a right to. So yes, I have. I think mostly, and I see it all the time, is they give statements when they don't have to. When you're being arrested or even after the arrest and the investigating officer or even the DA want to meet with you and discuss the case, the worst thing you could do is sit there and give a whole interview. That is the most common way for people to ruin their own case. I'm not sure, and I didn't know that was the consensus. I think that there's a good balance. I think that a lot of great criminal defense attorneys are solo, and then a lot of them are at big firms. I think that it's a pretty even playing field. I think a lot of people don't realize that I really have to act a lot like a therapist sometimes. So, of course, people come into my office and they cry and they, want relationship advice. And I think that that's a big part of my job that a lot of people don't realize, is that I'm also like a counselor and like a therapist. So, yeah, definitely that. I think it's because that's going to make for the best story. If you have a storyline about somebody who got murdered for money or jealousy or something juicy like that, compared to a dispute over a contract, the criminal story is going to be a lot juicier and it's going to sell more than, somebody breached a contract. I think it's just the potentials with the storylines are a lot broader with criminal. I do that all the time. I represent people all the time who I know committed the crime. And that really has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't change how hard I fight for them. It doesn't change how I treat them. It doesn't change how I view them. My job is to make sure that the government plays by the rules and that the client isn't taken advantage of. And so even if I know that they're guilty, they still get strong, aggressive defense from me. They should. Yeah, they should. There's a saying about, only a fool would represent himself or herself. And, yeah, I would agree. I think if I got in trouble, I would hire an attorney. It depends. If you're driving, you do have to provide your driver's license. There are some situations where you would be required to provide identification. But beyond that, I can't think of any situations where you have to speak to officers. Certainly not about your day or your activities. Anything beyond identification, you would never be forced to discuss without a lawyer present. In the US, you have to have a 4-year degree in anything. So you can have a bachelor's degree in any subject. And then you take the entrance exam, which is called the LSAT. And then depending on, your undergrad GPA and your score on the LSAT, then you apply to law schools and go to law school, get your law degree, and then you take the bar exam. I guess it would be making a partner at your firm. I'm not sure. Because once you're a lawyer, it's kind of like there's not steps in a pyramid or anything that, oh, you've reached this place. It's kind of just like, it's an even field of like whatever direction you want to go. You kind of set your own goals depending on just your personal accomplishments and what you want for your life. I guess most attorneys would start at a firm with the hopes to build their way up to partner. I love the fact that, I'm really making a difference in people's lives. The fact that I am the reason that a lot of people aren't in prison right now. And I'm the reason that there are fathers out here able to help raise their kids instead of being in prison. I like the fact that I'm actually making a huge difference in people's lives. And then I also like the fact that every case is different. So my job is not mundane in that I go to work and I sit at a computer and I do the same thing every day. My every day at work is different. So every case is different. Every client is different. Every judge is different. Every DA is different. So you never get the same boring thing. You're always on your toes. You're always able to kind of come up with some creative problem solving depending upon the situation. So I like that it's different and challenging every day. I guess the part that I dislike the most about my job is that it's very hard to have a set schedule if you're in court. I could have 2 hearings in one day and it could take 1 hour or it could take 4. You're not able to like schedule out your mornings if you have court because it depends. You got to wrangle everybody together. So you got to make sure if it's a specially assigned DA, you got to make sure your DA is there. If there are co-defendants, you got to make sure the co-defendants and their lawyers are there. Sometimes the DA doesn't show up until 9 or 10 in the morning and you're there at 8:30. So I think that's probably the part that gets me most frustrated is that it's not like a set schedule every morning. It's kind of like when it happens, and then I'm not really able to plan out the rest of my morning. But there are no like deep-rooted issues in my job that I hate. There just aren't. To children, I get that's a broad question. I think that for the most part, basic laws need to be taught in schools. So, for example, the right to remain silent. That should absolutely be taught at a young age, that you have the right to not incriminate yourself. And then also, I think, there's been so much in the media about people getting shot by police. I think that even at a young age, unfortunately, people need to be taught how to deal with face-to-face confrontation with the police and how to handle if they're stopped by the police. I think that those are probably the main two things that need to be taught at a young age. With 3 words, fuck this shit. I don't really understand the question.